The gun trembled in his hands. Smoke crawled across the ruins like living fog, swallowing buildings, swallowing screams, swallowing the last pieces of humanity. He had her in his sights. Just one bullet, one order, one heartbeat away from ending a life he'd never met. Her eyes did not beg. They didn't run or hide. They held him like something familiar, something painfully human in a place where everything else had turned to ash. She stood with empty hands, chest rising and falling slowly, like she had accepted death before he even arrived. Wind carried burned paper across the ground, letters, diaries, memories of people who would never breathe again. But one piece stopped at his boot, a torn photograph. Her face, younger, smiling, untouched by war. He lifted it with shaking fingers. He stepped closer, rifle raised, heart pounding like artillery fire behind his ribs. She whispered something he couldn't hear. Her voice was soft, cracked by fear and exhaustion, yet it cut louder than gunshots. He didn't know the language, but he felt it. The order replayed in his mind like a broken record. Eliminate the target. No hesitation, no questions. She is the enemy. He was trained to believe that love, kindness, hesitation, all of it was weakness in war. But now, weakness was all he felt. She lifted her chin slowly, a tear tracing down her dirt-streaked cheek, not pleading, not bargaining, just letting herself be seen. He expected hate, expected rage. Instead, he saw something terrifying. Forgiveness, as if she refused to fear him. His finger hovered on the trigger. One pull and history would never know she existed, but something inside him, something buried under duty, under discipline, under blood, cracked open like the heart he never planned to use again. A fracture he could not undo. He imagined her collapsing into the mud, imagined the world continuing like she meant nothing. And he realized the war had stolen enough. Homes, families, futures, innocence. But taking her life would steal something he didn't know he still possessed: humanity. She took a small step forward, just one. It felt like lightning through his spine. He could hear his captain's voice in his skull, cold as gunmetal. Loyalty is survival. But what if survival was no longer enough? What if living without feeling was another kind of death? Her hand reached toward him, slow, trembling, terrified but brave. It hovered inches from the barrel of his rifle. He could kill her. He could take her hand. He could do neither and still lose everything. War made monsters of good men, but love could make ghosts of them too. He lowered the gun. Not fast, not dramatic, just enough for breath to return to both of them. She exhaled like she'd been drowning for days. In that moment, they were no longer soldier and enemy, just two souls in the fire, trying to remember what it meant to be alive. He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, her loyalties, her sins. All he knew was this: he could pull the trigger and follow orders, or he could disobey and follow something far more dangerous: his heart. And for the first time, he chose the latter. He gave her the photograph. Their fingers touched, brief like a spark, yet powerful as an explosion. It felt like the beginning of something impossible, fragile, beautiful, a love born in a war built to destroy love. Behind them, artillery screamed. The world demanded they remain enemies, but they stood still. Like defiance itself had heartbeat and breath. Two lives on opposite sides of a battlefield, bound by a decision that would change everything, and history would remember what he did next. The war had been burning for months when Private James Harrow received the order that would fracture everything he thought he understood about loyalty. Dawn crawled over the trenches slowly, a cold, dying light pushing through smoke like a last breath. Mud swallowed his boots with each step, thick and heavy, as though the earth itself wanted to keep him from moving forward. Why did his legs feel heavier than his gear? Why did the morning feel like fate instead of routine? James held a rifle slick with rain and ash. A blood-stained map was folded in his pocket. His squad had taken heavy fire the night before, and command wanted retaliation. A village ahead sheltered enemy survivors. One woman in particular, a suspected informant. The order was simple: find her, eliminate the threat. No negotiation, no hesitation. But when had war ever been simple for those who still felt? He marched along the remnants of a road that once carried children to school, families to church, lovers to dances under lantern lights. Now it carried only ghosts. Burned houses leaned like broken teeth against the horizon. Shattered windows stared like hollow eyes. A rusty bicycle lay twisted between rubble, its front wheel still spinning as if someone had left only moments ago. Was it abandoned in fear? Was someone watching him now? James's breath fogged the air. He tightened his grip on the rifle. A quiet village was the loudest kind. Silence meant eyes, traps, ambushes. But something else hung in that silence too. A strange softness, a heartbeat he could not name. He approached the first house, half collapsed, roof caved in. Charred photos lay scattered on the ground. A wedding, a family dinner, a woman laughing beside a river. The same woman whose name now appeared in military paperwork as target. How could a photograph hold so much life when war demanded it mean nothing? A whisper of wind moved through the open walls. Curtains fluttered like ghosts of homes that once belonged to ordinary people. He stepped inside. The floor creaked under his weight. Dust drifted through sunlight like falling snow. A kettle lay blackened in the fireplace. A child's toy soldier melted beside it. Irony stung. A toy soldier destroyed by a real war. He heard movement upstairs. James froze, breath held in his chest like a trapped animal. Slow footsteps, light, careful, human. Was it her, or was it someone waiting to kill him first? His pulse hammered. His training screamed move, but something deeper whispered, listen. Which voice was right? He lifted his rifle, finger resting against cold metal. Each step up the staircase felt like choosing a fate. Wood groaned beneath him. Or was it his conscience? At the top, a hallway stretched dim and shadowed. Light spilled from a room at the end. A woman's voice, quiet, singing. A lullaby, a prayer. Why sing in a war zone unless the soul refused to surrender? He stood at the doorway. There she was. Dark hair tangled from days without rest. A torn dress clung to thin shoulders. Her hands trembled as she held a small tin cup of water like treasure. She turned slowly, and their eyes locked. Not enemy to enemy, but lost to lost. Was this truly the woman he was supposed to kill? He aimed the rifle, breath shaking. She did not scream. She did not run. Instead, she whispered a name. Not his, but someone she once loved. Perhaps someone lost to this same war. Tears glimmered but did not fall. Strength lived in her silence. Why did silence feel louder than gunfire? She stepped forward, barefoot on splinters. James stepped back. His training clashed with the growing thunder inside his chest. What kind of threat stands unarmed, offering no resistance? What kind of enemy carries a voice so fragile it could break a soldier more than bullets ever could? He demanded her name. She hesitated, then spoke it. Softly, like a secret afraid of being destroyed. Elena. He repeated it without meaning to. Names make people. Real people are harder to kill. Elena reached into her pocket slowly. He flinched, rifle rising, but she pulled out nothing but a folded piece of paper. A photograph. She held it out with shaking fingers. A younger Elena beside a uniformed man, smiling, alive, before war carved sorrow into her eyes. James didn't know why his hand moved, but it did. He took the photograph. Their fingers touched. It was not electricity, but something quieter, far more dangerous. Recognition. Humanity. A reminder that both of them had something war wanted to erase. Behind James, thunder rumbled. Artillery distant but approaching. Time was breaking apart around them. He could kill her. He could leave. He could protect her. Every choice was a life rewritten. Which one would he choose? James stood in that ruined room like a man split in two. One half still a soldier, the other something far more fragile and dangerous, a human being who could feel. The photograph trembled in his grip. Outside, distant artillery began to climb into the sky like thunder crawling toward judgment. Every second pressed on him like a loaded trigger. Duty said, "Pull it." His heart whispered, "Don't." Elena watched him carefully, not like prey, but like someone measuring the size of her own fate. One wrong move from either of them, and this fragile, impossible moment would shatter into blood. How could the space between two people hold so much danger? How could silence feel like the sharpest weapon in the room? James took a step toward her, lowering his rifle but not entirely, instinct still living in his muscles. Elena's eyes flickered toward the broken window, as if expecting soldiers to appear at any second. Was someone coming for her? Were they already too late? The floor seemed to pulse with the unanswered questions. He asked why she was there, why she hadn't fled with the others when the village burned. Elena's voice cracked like old wood. She had nowhere to go. Her family gone, her home ashes. The man in the photograph? Dead 2 months earlier. War had taken everything but her pulse. Was James meant to take that too? Footsteps outside. Not soft. Not cautious. Military. Elena's eyes widened, and everything inside James ignited at once. Fear, urgency, adrenaline. Something fierce and protective he had no right to feel. He grabbed her arm gently but firmly. No time for trust. No time for doubt. He pulled her toward the back of the house just as shadows crossed the shattered front window. 3 soldiers. American. His own squad. James swallowed panic like fire. If they found Elena, she was dead. And if they found him with her... Hesitation was treason. Treason meant execution. A soldier doesn't protect the enemy. Not unless he wants to die beside her. Was he willing to risk that? Was this feeling worth the noose that might follow? He pressed her against the wall behind the stairway, as boots thundered through the front door, voices familiar. Men he had fought beside. Men who trusted him. Men who would kill her without blinking. One soldier called his name. James didn't answer. Another cursed at the sight of the burned photograph scattered across the table. Elena flinched. James placed a hand over her mouth, not to silence her, but to shield her fear. His fingers shook. The squad spread out, searching. James could hear each step like gunshots inside his skull. Upstairs, downstairs. They were getting closer. The war outside felt distant now. The real battle was breathing inches from discovery. A drawer slammed open. A bayonet scraped wood. Boots approached the hallway. If they checked behind the stairs, everything would end. James made a decision that rewrote the man he was trained to be. He stepped out into the open. A soldier spun, rifle raised, but lowered it when he recognized him. Their sergeant stormed in behind, face carved from granite and smoke. He demanded to know why James had broken formation, why he wasn't with the patrol line, why he looked like a man holding a ghost under his skin. James needed a lie. Fast. He said he heard movement, thought the target might be near, came ahead to scout. Words tasted like iron. The sergeant studied him with the eyes of someone who'd buried too many men to ignore instinct. Did he believe the lie? Or did he smell betrayal like blood? Another soldier muttered that the house was empty. The sergeant's jaw tightened. Something wasn't right. And he felt it. But artillery thundered again, closer now, rattling the windows. They needed to move. Orders were to sweep and burn, not waste time digging ghosts out of rubble. The squad exited, but the sergeant paused at the door, eyes cutting through James like a blade. Don't fall behind again. Not a warning, a suspicion. James waited until footsteps faded into the distance. His heart didn't stop pounding even when the silence returned. He turned, and Elena was still there, trembling, alive because he had chosen her over command. Why her? Why now? Why did her existence feel like a battle more dangerous than the one outside? Elena's voice returned as a whisper. Barely air. They will come back. It wasn't fear. It was truth. James knew she was right. His lie had bought time, not safety, and time was bleeding out fast. He told her they needed to move, not away from danger, but deeper into it, into forests crawling with enemy patrols, into ruins where bullets and love spoke the same language, into a war where a single decision could kill them both. Elena hesitated only a moment, then nodded. She trusted him. He didn't know if he deserved that trust, but he held it like a weapon, like hope. As they slipped through the back of the house into the smoking world beyond, James felt the line between soldier and traitor blur beneath his feet. If war demanded he kill her, He would rather betray a nation than betray his own humanity. And that choice would follow them. Like footsteps in the mud, the village vanished behind them like a memory set on fire. James and Elena moved through the ruins with the urgency of hunted animals. Smoke curled through skeletal houses. The world smelled of ash, wet earth, and fear, a mixture that burned the lungs. Every step deeper into the war-torn outskirts felt like walking across a wire between life and execution. Would the squad notice he was missing? Would they return and track footprints in the mud? The forest ahead waited like a mouth-swallowing light. Broken branches cracked under their boots. Birds were gone. Even nature seemed to flee the violence. Elena stumbled once, catching herself on a fallen log. James reached for her instinctively, his hand gripping hers with a firmness that surprised them both. Why did her touch feel like oxygen after months of smoke? They paused beneath blackened trees. James studied her face. Dirt, blood, exhaustion, yet beneath it all, a softness that refused to die. Elena whispered if he regretted saving her. The question hit him like shrapnel. Did he? He should have. He was risking treason, court-martial, death. But when he looked at her, regret found no room to breathe. Gunshots shattered the silence. James pulled her down behind fallen timber as bullets ripped through foliage. Voices. American. His squad. How had they found them so quickly? Had the sergeant known all along? Leaves rained down like fragments of lost dreams. Elena pressed a hand to her mouth to silence her breath. James could hear his own heartbeat louder than gunfire. One soldier called out his name. Friendly tone, dangerous implication. They thought he was injured, separated, lost. They wanted to find him. But if they did, if they saw Elena beside him, there would be no mercy. James motioned silently. They crawled across the dirt, each movement deliberate as prayer. The forest felt alive with eyes. A twig snapped. Too loud, too sharp. Voices turned. Boots rushed. James grabbed Elena's hand and they ran. Branches tore at their skin. Roots tried to drag them down. The world became motion and breathless terror. Behind them, shouts rose, commands barking like hounds. Find him. He's not alone. Not alone. They knew. James pulled Elena behind a ridge of stone, chest burning, lungs scraping cold air like glass. For a moment, only wind moved. Then an explosion rolled through the trees, shaking earth beneath their palms. A flare burst against the sky. Red streak tearing open the clouds like a wound. Search signal. They had become fugitives. They needed distance. Miles, not meters. Night would be their cover, if they survived until then. James guided her toward a stream, hoping running water would hide tracks. They waded through icy currents up to their knees, skin numb, breath sharp. Did Elena trust him enough for this? Did he trust himself? When they emerged into thicker woods, dusk was already bleeding into the sky. James's legs trembled from fatigue. Elena's shoulders shook from cold, but she never once asked to stop. There was strength in her silence, a kind he had never seen in war-hardened men. They found shelter in the ruins of an old farmhouse half swallowed by ivy. No roof, only beams clawing at the night. They collapsed beneath them, shivering. For a long moment, neither spoke. The world outside roared, but inside that broken frame, only their breathing existed. James tore fabric from his own sleeve to wrap around her scraped hand. Elena watched him quietly, eyes reflecting firelight from distant artillery like stars caught in smoke. Why was he doing this? Why risk everything? Honor, his own life, for a woman he had been ordered to kill. He didn't have an answer. But when her hand brushed his cheek, soft, hesitant, almost questioning, he felt the war break inside him, like a fortress crumbling under one gentle touch. She spoke, voice fragile, yet unarmored. Before the war, I wanted to be a painter. Colors, light, skin, movement. But war took color. Everything is black and red, black for death, red for blood, or for love. James didn't know which terrified him more. He told her about his mother, his childhood near cornfields, how he enlisted to protect, not destroy. Elena's eyes softened, not with pity, but understanding. Two lives from different worlds, meeting at the single point where destruction demanded connection. Outside, thunder rolled again. Artillery or fate knocking. Elena leaned closer, whisper trembling. If your soldiers find us, will you kill me before they do? The question stabbed deeper than any blade. He stared at her, unable to speak. Would he pull the trigger to spare her suffering, or fight the entire army alone? Was love worth becoming an enemy to his own nation? He didn't answer. He could not answer. Not yet. A branch snapped outside. James grabbed his rifle, heart locking into survival mode. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Someone was searching the ruins. Their breaths vanished into silence. One soldier? Two? More? James raised the rifle, but hesitation clung like frost. If he fired, they were finished. If he didn't, discovery was inevitable. Elena's hand found his. Not pulling it down, just reminding him he wasn't alone. The footsteps stopped outside the doorway. A shadow moved. A gun barrel appeared through broken wood. Everything balanced on one heartbeat. Would James kill to protect love, or die with it? The shadow at the doorway didn't move. It lingered like death, deciding which soul to take first. Rain began tapping against broken beams, soft as fingertips on wood. A cruel contrast to the storm building beneath James's ribs. He tightened his grip on the rifle. Elena held her breath so still she seemed carved from the silence itself. One wrong tremor. One breath too loud. One heartbeat too hopeful. And they were done. The barrel shifted, sweeping the room like a searching eye. James lowered himself slowly, silently, finger ready on the trigger. But inside him, a war raged louder than artillery. If he fired and killed one of his own, he would cross a line no man returns from. But if he hesitated, if he waited, they would both be dragged into the light and executed as traitor and enemy. Was survival worth a brother's blood? Was conscience worth their deaths? The soldier stepped fully into view. Private Miller, young, barely 20. The kind of face war had not yet fully eroded. Rain streaked down his helmet, and his gaze swept the ruin with sharp instinct. He took one step, then another, boots crushing fragments of glass and memory. He was close now. So close James could smell the cold metal of his rifle. James stood. He stood between Miller and Elena, weapon raised, shoulders squared, no more hiding. Miller stared, confusion flashing into disbelief. "James?" he breathed, voice cracking like something breaking inside. "You're alive. We thought—" His words cut off when he saw her. Everything changed in an instant. Miller's eyes hardened. Training replaced humanity. James whispered, "Don't." But Miller's finger tightened on his trigger reflexively. One shot, and Elena would fall. One twitch, and this story would end in mud and blood. The moment stretched, elastic, trembling, unbearable. Then James did the unthinkable. He lowered his gun, not to surrender, but as an act of defiance. "I won't let you shoot her." Miller's breath shook. Fear, betrayal, disbelief, all fighting for dominance in his young face. "She's the enemy," he hissed. "Orders are orders." But even he sounded like a child repeating rules he no longer believed in. James spoke gently, desperately, as if words were the only weapon left. "She's just a person. She survived what we survived. She's not a threat. She's alive. Doesn't that matter?" Miller's jaw trembled. War had made him a soldier, but not yet a killer. For one long second, uncertainty flickered through him. A match threatening to spark humanity in a field soaked in gasoline. But the world does not allow mercy easily. Outside, more voices cracked through the rain. More footsteps, reinforcements. They were surrounded. Elena stepped forward, fragile yet fearless, placing herself beside James instead of behind him. She offered her wrists. Surrender. Submission. A plea for compassion, not escape. Even facing death, she chose dignity. Why does bravery look more like softness than steel? Miller hesitated. Then something changed in his eyes. A crack James recognized from his own heart hours earlier. He lowered his weapon. Just a fraction. Just enough. But the sergeant entered next. He didn't hesitate. His pistol raised. His voice thundered like the war itself. Step away from the enemy. Now. James stood taller. Elena didn't move. Rain fell harder, soaking them in cold finality. The sergeant saw everything. The closeness, the defiance, the betrayal. A soldier does not protect what he's ordered to destroy. Not unless love has replaced allegiance. Last chance, Harrow. James's answer was a breath. A vow. A rebellion whispered into the universe. No. Time exploded. A gunshot tore the air. Miller shouted. Elena gasped. James felt pain rip through his shoulder, fire spreading like lightning beneath skin. He fell to one knee, but shielded her even as blood soaked into the earth. The sergeant advanced, pistol steady. Elena knelt beside James, pressing her hand to his wound, eyes wild with terror and fury. For the first time, she spoke without fear, voice trembling, raw, human. He saved me. He chose mercy. Would you kill him for that? The sergeant's expression didn't waver, but his eyes flickered. For a heartbeat, war loosened its grip. Humanity tried to breathe, then orders suffocated it again. He aimed at her. James moved before pain could stop him, using the last of his strength to lunge forward, knocking the sergeant off balance. The pistol fired wild, striking the floor, sending sparks of stone and fate into the air. They struggled. Rain, mud, blood merging like battlefield ink. Miller rushed forward, torn between duty and conscience. Then came another sound, not from them, but beyond the trees. Enemy artillery. The forest lit with fire. Explosions ripped through the night, shaking the ground like giants waking. Branches shattered. Earth split. Soldiers scattered like leaves in a storm. The sergeant fell. Miller dragged James up, the choice already made in his breaking voice. Go! Now! Before command arrives. James didn't ask why. Miller didn't explain. All he said through rain and guilt and grace was this. Love her. If you survive, love her enough for all of us who couldn't. James and Elena ran. Into fire. Into night. Into uncertain freedom. Behind them, war raged on. Ahead, no promise existed except what they carried inside. Fragile, reckless, burning brighter than the battlefield behind. Love didn't end the war, but it survived it. And sometimes, survival is the greatest victory. Years passed the way old wounds close. Slowly, imperfectly, leaving scars deep enough for history to remember. The war ended, but peace did not arrive like sunlight breaking clouds. It came quietly, cautiously, one heartbeat at a time. Entire cities began to breathe again. Though some breaths still trembled with ghosts, James survived. Not without pain. He carried a bullet in his shoulder like a reminder carved into bone. Some nights, he woke gasping, hearing explosions that no longer existed. Other nights, he dreamed of a photograph he dropped in the mud years earlier. The one he first held with shaking hands in a burned-out room. The moment that changed everything. Elena survived too. She bore her own scars, invisible ones, the kind that no doctor can treat. But her voice, once cracked with fear, learned to sing again. Sometimes softly, sometimes in laughter, sometimes in whispered memories only James understood. They built a life far from the borders where nations demanded hatred. A small house near a slow river. Vines growing where barbed wire once ruled. Some days they lived like the war had never happened. Other days they remembered too clearly. But they remembered together, and that made the weight bearable. James planted apple trees. Elena painted them. Color returned to her world stroke by stroke. Reds no longer blood, but ripe fruit. Grays no longer death, but morning fog. Her canvases filled with stolen moments. James chopping wood, their hands intertwined over tea, the way his eyes softened when she laughed. War had stolen her first world. Love helped her paint another. Villagers sometimes whispered stories about them. The American soldier who chose heart over uniform. The enemy woman he was sent to kill, but instead learned to love. Some called it betrayal. Others called it miracle. Time, however, called it truth. One autumn evening, leaves like embers drifting through wind. James and Elena sat on their old wooden porch, the sky bruised purple with dusk. He held her fingers, more fragile now but still warm, still real. She leaned her head on his shoulder, listening to the river carry away what history no longer needed to keep. He asked her if she ever wondered what would have happened if he'd pulled the trigger that first day. Elena smiled, not with sadness, but with a tenderness that held entire wars in surrender. "If you had," she whispered, "you would have died too. Not your body, but everything human in you." James closed his eyes. Maybe she was right, because love had kept them alive in a way bullets never could. War had demanded obedience, but love demanded courage. And courage, he learned, is far rarer than victory. Each year, when the first snow fell, they walked to the edge of the forest where they once ran for their lives. The earth was quieter now, trees taller. No gunfire, only birds returning. Elena would place a red flower in the snow, James a dog tag he no longer needed to wear, not to mourn the past, but to honor the moment they chose to rewrite it. And sometimes, miles away, a younger soldier would visit too. Private Miller, older now, eyes etched by the same war, carrying the same ghosts. He never stayed long, never said much. But when he walked away, James always saw something alive in his posture. Something like hope. People like to believe war is the most powerful force in the world. But James knew better. War destroys. Love rebuilds. And in the quiet years that followed, the story of the soldier and the woman he was ordered to kill became more than survival. It became proof that even in the darkest chapters of history, the human heart can still choose light. Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because it's the only thing powerful enough to change fate.